That's cool. Let me hop into the Twitch once again so I can see anybody that's in the chat. Now, I don't see the stream on the app. I don't know if it takes a while for it to kick in. Oh, I see it now. Awesome. So while that happens, let me tell everybody on Instagram that this is happening, that we're live. And then it's live now. Swipe up. All right. Let's do it. Let me see if there's anybody watching currently. Continue watching. And then chat, live channels. Ah, this is so cool. Paste and go. Hello and welcome to Crowd. I forget the name. I'm sorry, guys. Now I got all nervous. But okay, so here's what we're gonna do. So if you don't know me, my name is Carlos. I run the +5 Charisma Instagram, where I create a lot of Dungeons and Dragons homebrew content. Now, for everybody that doesn't know, I guess I'll give you a little bit of my background. I got into Dungeons and Dragons about 2 years ago. I play as a dungeon. I played one game as a player, and then I did one game, a couple of games, probably 10 to 15 games as a dungeon master. So I'm very new and a very amateur dungeon master when it comes to playing Dungeons and Dragons. And a couple of the issues that I ran into the game, and I ran with playing the game, is that I always wanted to create my own stories and make it very compelling, but then I could never find the inspiration to do so. And even though the Dungeons and Dragons Master Guide, the Dungeon Master Guide to creating stories helps you out, I don't know, it wasn't right for me. Like I rolled the tables and I tried to create a couple of stories myself, but then I wasn't able to come up with anything that I thought was very original. I think I would always come up with the same thing, given that the tables are very limited. So I started looking for online resources to try to come up with newer stories and see if somebody had a process as to how to come up with original homebrew content. And most of the people are like either fantasy authors or aspiring authors that are dungeon masters, and it comes naturally to them. Now that does not happen with me, given that like I only got into the fantasy world about 2 years ago, so I don't have like a family or a story in my family or a story of anybody that has actually ran the game for me, or that has inspired fantasy storytelling in my throughout my life. So I was starting basically from ground zero. And what I started doing is I started looking up for online hooks, story hooks to get inspired. And some of them were very compelling. And then I ran into a lot of them that were not compelling at all. And I hated it because I always wanted to create an amazing story for my friends and family, which is who I was playing Dungeons and Dragons with. But I wasn't able to come up with anything. So with that being said, I was like, okay, I'm going to start an Instagram profile where I will force myself to go through the process of inspiring myself and looking for story hooks online and trying to come up with unique stories. And so I created +5 Charisma about 10 months ago. And then, well, if you see the profile, it's been quite successful. if you haven't done so, well, you can check it out. I'm not encouraging anybody to follow it if it's not your cup of tea, but I feel like it has helped a lot of people, and it has helped mostly me to get inspired to play Dungeons and Dragons even more. So it's kind of like my hobby, running the Instagram. I currently do not have a Dungeons and Dragons party that I play with. So it's just me fantasizing that one day I'll join a party and I start playing with somebody. And now that we are, I guess, doing social distancing, then it's a little bit harder. And my family doesn't really want to play Dungeons and Dragons. So it's just me. So I'm trying to get in the game. But I don't know, it's very difficult at the current time. None of my friends, coworkers really are into board games or tabletop role-playing games. I feel like it's just me. And although some of my siblings and my partner, they want to get into like role-playing games, we need like a little bit more, because otherwise it would just be 3 people, and we have tried to run Dungeons and Dragons games like that. But it's difficult when you only have like 2 players, and they are very passive players. Like they need somebody to I guess bounce ideas from, a leader of the group, and we don't have that currently. And even though I'm trying as a dungeon master, I think it's difficult. I've tried the Reddit looking for group. I actually have been interviewed by a couple of dungeon masters, but it has been difficult trying to get them together. And now during this time, it has been even more difficult because nobody's meeting person to person to try to figure out like schedules and how to play. So what I want to do is very simple. I want to create a bunch of story hooks and get inspired to play Dungeons and Dragons. The way that I kind of show you my process, I have like my own YouTube channel where I interview a couple of dungeon masters and try to show them how to come up with their own homebrew content. And if anybody like needs ideas to come up with your own content, then we'll do so together. I don't know if I can share my screen. I'm assuming that I'm able to share my screen if I want to, right? So let me do that, and I'll show you exactly how I come up with Dungeons and Dragons story hooks myself. Share my screen. So I guess I'll take you through the process. It's actually super simple. We go through 3 steps, and the first one is for you guys to pick a subject as to what you want to create a Dungeons and Dragons story about. Awesome. So the first thing is I want you guys to pick a subject, whether you want to create a story about a demon or wildlife or a hex. Feel free to do so. Just pick one of the ones. Otherwise, I'm just going to roll a die over here and pick at random. Okay, so we're going to do demon. Oh, demon or hex. Cool. So 2 votes for demon, 2 votes for hex. Both are good. I guess if there's a tiebreaker, otherwise I'm just rolling a die, flipping a coin. All right, let's do hex. That's 3 for hex out of 9 viewers. So 30% of you, hex. So once we pick the hex, I'll give you guys the subject. I'll read you guys now what we're going to be working with. I'll type in the story hook. But if we're doing the hex one, then our story hook is as follows. And let me open up the Excel sheet. This is what I got today. All right. So everybody in town has been turned into monsters, and you guys must save the town. Let me copy that here for you. Everyone is turned into monsters, and the character must save the town. So with that being said, now I want you guys to pick an image so we can draw inspiration from that. So I have a couple of images here. I'm going to try to open them all. And whichever image compels you the most, we'll try to create a story hook about with that image. And that's it. Image 1, there's like an angel and some warrior fighting it out. This guy burning, or maybe he's a pyromancer of some sort. We have this sort of queen, kind of being a slave and all of her possessions being taken away. And if I'm not mistaken, this is a character from Critical Role. So based on the story hook that we have, which is a hex that everybody has been turned into monsters, and the characters must save the town. Now let's pick an image so we can try to come up with a story together. Let me try. Queen. Yeah, the queen is very nice. I've seen this image a couple of times, and it's always like it gets a lot of attention. So we got 2 votes for the queen. Let's go with that. Here, so we got the queen, and then we got our story hook. Now everybody has been turned into monsters, and the characters must save the town. And then we have the image. So with that being said, I usually just brainstorm both with the image and the story hook that I have. Everybody has been turned into monsters, so perhaps we have a couple of people and a couple of hands trying to steal things from the queen. If anybody has any ideas as to how that story hook and that image can be related, then that's exactly what I start with when I come up with any of my story hooks, if you have seen on the Instagram page. So my thoughts, just based on what I see, is that the queen or all of her possessions are being taken away from a bunch of humans. So I guess the first thing is exactly right, like what kind of monsters. So my first thought would be that the humans that are taking the possessions from the queen could be the monsters. So we have human hands trying to steal articles from this queen of some sort. Maybe she was a benevolent queen or an evil queen. We don't know yet. We're trying to brainstorm as much as we can. And then these humans are taking possessions from her. So perhaps they are the monsters themselves. Now we have to decide what did the queen do that might have either that or that the queen has turned into the monster and everyone is trying to take the throne from her as she's now in fifth rule. I like that. So the queen has turned into the monster. So let me put my chat here. Horror of doppelgangers. So either that or the queen, other races and creatures also have human-like hands. That's correct. So I'm just going specifically for humans because they look like human hands to me and I can relate with that. And all the people are the queen now. Oh, look at that. So when everybody has been turned into monsters, where is that part of the hook? So everybody has been turned into the queen? Is that what you're saying? So everybody has turned into the queen, and so there are a horde of doppelgangers who have turned into a queen, and they're now trying to all rule the kingdom. So what amongst the doppelgangers, what makes them, how will they decide who rules from all of them. So if you have like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, I don't know, if you have like 20 doppelgangers and they're all the queen, how are they going to decide amongst them who is going to be the queen? Oh, they're just tormenting her. Now, can we come up with like a reasoning as to whether the queen was a good queen or a bad queen? Like, so yeah, so that's what I'm trying to figure out. So if she did something to deserve being mistreated or being accused of whatever she's being accused of, what was it? Like, we have to now try to come up with some type of crime that she committed, and then this gang of doppelgangers, I can't, of doppelgangers are trying to now take her throne. Doppelgangsters? Doppelgangsters. I like this image a lot. Everybody has been turned into monsters. Doppelgangsters are trying to become the queen. The queen did some sort of crime. So let's go with that. I'll write some of the ideas down for all of you guys. Queen committed a crime. Doppelgangers want the throne. They want to rule on her behalf, or they want to rule instead of her. So I like that. So pretty much we have a queen, whether we don't know if it's a good queen, perhaps she was a good queen. She employed a doppelganger to frame her sister for murder, who was the rightful heir to the throne. But there was an undisclosed prize. Ooh. What do you mean undisclosed price? So she was gonna pay them somehow for framing her sister. Somebody in exchange, she's a puppet of the doppelganger. Got it. So Queen committed a crime, and we know that she framed her sister for murder. The doppelgangers want the throne, so the prize, the way that they're getting the throne is that Queen is now their puppet. And we know that they want to rule instead of her. So now, I guess the last question to make it even more compelling is, how long will the doppelgangers be ruling? Like, I guess they are now using the queen as her puppet, and this is like a great image to show that. Like, you can see chains, and they're kind of forcing her to do what they need her to do. And this could be like mentally that how the queen feels, or it could be also like a reflection of what's actually happening. So the doppelgangers want to rule, but what's their ultimate purpose? Why do they want to rule? Doppelgangers want to rule. Why? So if we can answer that, I think we have a very compelling story hook. They are agents of chaos. I like that. Now, is there a second idea to that, like another brainstorm? So and this is just something that, like, if you feel like that this is like compelling enough, that like they're agents of chaos, and that your party and your game is going to be fine with this, you can stop at any time at the story hook and just run the story. However, for me especially, I like to have a reasoning as to why. Like, why would I empathize with the doppelgangers which are trying to rule like the throne? Like, maybe they have an ultimate goal, and I want to make sure that it's always like all of the characters are compelling enough. Like, I don't like, particularly if somebody's evil, that the answer that why they're evil is that they were born evil, which is fine. Like, and a lot of stories are like that, I think. uh, for me, especially if you guys have seen Lord of the Rings, Sauron is evil, and I never understand why he's evil. I think he's just always been like an agent of chaos that wants to rule the world. And like, the Lord of the Rings is a fantastic story, so it's completely okay to have agents of chaos. But sometimes I just like to figure out a reason as to why they want to do what they do. Maybe they also work for the sister. Uh, Frame her sister, and now the doppelgangers were on the throne. So she framed the sister for murder, and sister was the actual heir. Doppelgangers now want to rule. Why? Sister hired them? Is that what you're saying? There you go. So the queen committed a crime. She framed the sister for murder. Maybe the sister was thrown to prison. Now this queen like starts ruling the kingdom. Then the sister hires the doppelgangers because they are working for the sister that she framed. So there you go. You have one story hook, one image, one subject, hex. The sister hired them. We have doppelgangers. We have a queen that committed a crime, and now she framed her sister, and now she's a puppet. And then if you have your Dungeons and Dragons party, you can throw this hook for them. Maybe they walk into the kingdom and they see all of this happening. And this can be a story that you can develop either, like, it could be a one-shot campaign or a couple of sessions that you can develop this story. Or if you want to just run an entire campaign based on this, I think there is a lot of potential to expand the story further. For nothing is evil in the beginning. Even Sauron was not so. Oh, look at that. I didn't know that. Like I said, I just got into fantasy about 2 years ago. So forgive every inconsistency of mine. So there you go. We have the very first story hook. This is the very first one. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put it right here. And let's go for another one. Just come up with as many stories as possible for everybody for the next 20 minutes or so. Bam. If you guys see the Excel sheet, don't do that. It's fine. It agrees with what you just said, that most people and compelling characters are born evil. No, yeah. I completely understood that Sauron was not born evil, but I guess what I was trying to say is that I never understood why he was evil. Perhaps he was not evil, but I don't think, as far as I can remember, that in Lord of the Rings they explain why he is evil. I know that he wants power, but why does he want? Well, it's just, maybe I need to read the story further, or maybe I need to read more books. But that could be completely on me. But I do agree, and I see that what you're saying, that you're just trying to agree with what I was saying, that not all care. Well, that most people and most compelling characters are not born evil. So I understood that that's what you were trying to say. So with that being said, we have this image. We're gonna get it out. We already have a story hook with this. So let's pick another theme and create another story hook based on that. If you like the one before, let's go for the next one. We'll just do them back to back. So in 20 minutes, we just created an entire campaign for you guys to develop the stories and arcs for your Dungeons and Dragons party. So we have a demon, wildlife, and hostage. I know that everybody wanted demon before, uh, but if you guys want to now pick hostage, I guess nobody cares about wildlife because I don't know. Maybe you guys are playing druids or something. Let's go. Let's pick it. Let's pick a subject. Otherwise, I'm just gonna go for demon, which was the second most voted on the previous example. Impish grin. You are my brainstorm buddy. Everything I say, we just bounce ideas back and forth. We'll work these story hooks together. It's much easier when you have somebody to bounce ideas from. So let's do wildlife. Even though I think you said demon before, but I guess now you want wildlife because now you sympathize with druids. So let's go for that. This is the wildlife hook. If you guys can see that, I'll try to make it bigger. All the local wildlife are killing people. Yeah, but it's fine. With one person that replies, even if it's just you, then we have content for all the 13 viewers. 13 people are looking how to create story hooks live. So we have all the local wildlife are killing people. So let's go with the main questions. Why? Oh, Charles, don't worry. I know that you stepped away for a bit, but I won't hold it against you if you tell me why the local wildlife are killing people. So we're doing wildlife. Now, if you're just watching, we're trying to create story hooks live for everybody, trying to come up with homebrew content. If you guys are running currently Dungeons and Dragons campaigns and you need some inspiration, this is what we're trying to do. If the ones that we're creating are not good enough for you, then my Instagram, which is, I guess, a +5 charisma, at +5 charisma. Then, I don't know, you can find, I have like over 200 ideas for the Dungeons and Dragons campaigns. So something has driven them mad. Irritant deep, irritant deep into moments. Now, the irritant, is it caused by nature itself or is it caused by a creature? Like in the earth or plants? Yeah, that's also a good question. Ooh, there's an artifact. So something has driven the mad. We're thinking about an artifact. I like that. So now with that in mind, those are the first brainstorm ideas. We're now gonna pick another image. So we already picked the queen. I'm gonna try to add another image here. And what I want you to do, Charles, if you want, is to pick one of these images so we can develop the story further. So we have, I believe this is a critical role character. I'm not really sure what race that is, but I've been told that it's a critical role character. We have this pyromancer, we have this angel, and some sort of armor trying to fight it out, duke it out together. And we have this angel with like a ram, I believe. So let's try to pick an image to try to develop the story further. I'll pick the angel fighting. So this guy. Cool. So let's close this, guys. Cool. Perhaps the sword was dropped during the fight, and that's the artifact. So artifact is equals to a sword. And then the sword has been, I guess, lost within nature. Now, I guess let's zoom in and check out the sword. So the sword in itself is like a black sword, like perhaps some sort of evil or cursed item. But like once it is, I guess, once it falls into nature, it causes the wildlife to start and it drives them mad. Now, so with that being said, let's try to come up with the origin of this sword. Who created it? Why are these guys fighting? Who are they? And this is pretty much the consequences of them fighting. Like I guess the guy with the white robes looks like the good guy. I mean, it does seem like them fighting with this artifact causes some imbalance in nature. I guess if I zoom in here to the right, you can see like thunder and everything happening. Can I make the image bigger? So we have, I guess, some sort of celestial creature wearing white robes. He's a little bit, I guess, on the elder side. He has some sort of shackles on his ankles. That we have some sort of black knight. I mean, I guess it could be assumed that the knight is the evil one just because he's wearing dark, but I know that that's not exactly what it represents, and we can make up anything we want. But just trying to come up with some ideas in case you guys are getting stuck. Perhaps also, again, just brainstorming, and everything I say, feel free to challenge it or change it. I'm not bound by any of my own thoughts. So we have a giant sword that perhaps belonged to this guy. Yeah, yeah. So the sword, like Impish Green says, the sword belonged to the Black Knight, um, to the Black Armor Knight. The angel was in prison. So we know he took the sword in the escape, and now they're battling it out. Okay, so let's try to write that. Angel, prison. Angel stole the sword. Um, Black Knight fights him for it. Um, Now, I guess the question that I would have for you guys is it's two questions. Why was the angel in prison? What did he do? And the other one is like, what does the sword do? Like, what's its power? I know we can assume that because we know that the consequences of them losing the sword and the sword falling into nature is that it drives nature mad, and all the local wildlife start killing people. We can assume that the sword has some sort of evil curse upon the world, or it's used for evil in some sort of way. So we can sort of try to assume that. And the other one is that why was the angel in prison? Like, we know that he has shackles and he's fighting it out. I guess once we ask those questions, it can help out. So impish Rin, you say the source seeps out evil energy from all lives. It's consumed. Ooh, so it makes me think of I believe there's actually a Dungeons and Dragons item called the Black Razor, which is a sword that always wants to kill. I believe anybody that's lawful, or lawful, whether they're lawful evil, lawful neutral, lawful neutral, or lawful evil, or lawful good, that they can control the sword, and the sword is always looking out to claim souls on every couple of days. And if for some reason the soul hasn't killed anybody within a certain period of time, it will force its owner to kill something. Nature and wildlife are symbols of life themselves and are being tainted by the blood imbued on the sword. Yeah, I like that some sort of. So Charles. So let me hear your thought. The angel was sent to punish the knight, and the knight instead tricked the angel and imprisoned it. So angel came to punish the knight. Capture him. And then what does the sword do? Yeah, it has a supernatural. To differentiate here. So the sword does want to constantly kill and try to get its owner to start killing and claiming souls. What makes me think is that the sword also is like some sort of sentient being. So the sword actually has thoughts. Um, maybe it can read, it can write some sort of, or is proficient in a certain language, and we know that it could be alive. Now, when the sword falls into nature, because nature is now the one holding the sword, then the sword is forcing nature to start killing all the local wildlife. All the local wildlife are killing people because the sword is forcing them to. There you go. Do you guys need me to write that down? Angel in prison. Angel came to punish the knight. Angel in prison. Angel came to punish the knight, and knight captured him. Angel escaped with the sword. Maybe the angel came to punish the knight, obviously because the knight has been wreaking a lot of havoc with this sword. So the angel escaped with the sword. The Black Knight fights him for it. Struggle. Sword is lost in nature. The sword has supernatural bloodlust, so it constantly wants to kill, and it forces owner to kill and gather souls. Since nature has the sword now, nature starts killing people. Starts killing people. And there you go. Now we have a story for your Dungeons and Dragons campaign. We've already came up with two. We have the one with the queen, and now we have the one with the angel and the sword. That's it, and we actually came up with each one of them in 20 minutes each. So it is completely up to you guys whether you want me to come up and whether you guys want to come up with like a third story and do third time the charm, or I guess I can put the other one here. We have the wildlife, then we can switch it up and do a one last one, quick and easy, and then we'll go for greed instead of wildlife. And we can come up with a third story hook together. By the way, if you guys don't follow my page already, which is at +5 charisma, all the story hooks that we have been coming up together, then I guess I'm gonna create a post for you guys so you guys can take a look at it on the Instagram. Charles and Impish Grin, if you have your information, then feel free to post that and I'll follow you guys on Instagram and I'll credit you for helping me coming up with these story hooks together. Yeah, it's actually kind of fun. I need to get people to try to come up, to try to bounce ideas from. So at Impish Grin, I'll credit you for both the first and the second one. I guess I'll also credit Charles for the first one as soon as he provides his Instagram, if he wants to. There you go, Charles. I'll also give you a follow from the +5 charisma. I don't know if you already follow me or not. But yeah, that's it. Pretty much, I guess I'll do a quick summary if you guys need to come up with your own story hooks. Summary, step 1, subject. Step 2, pick an image for inspiration. Yeah, there's so much fun to bounce ideas with other people and other creative minds. I never found myself to be that much of a creative person until I started bouncing ideas back and forth and kind of building on top of ideas that already exist. And then step 3, just a quick Q&A based on the subject that you picked, or pick a theme, or pick a subject, I guess. Theme, pick an image, and do a Q&A based on the brainstorming that you did. So where do I find my images? So I'll show you. I go on Pinterest. So Pinterest is really nice, but obviously Pinterest has full of images and difficult to find sometimes images. So for example, it already recommends me like images of dragons and stuff because I look for a lot of fantasy art, but at the beginning it didn't recommend me any of that. So let's say if I want to type angel, when it shows angel, it shows a lot of figurines and like statues. So this is not what I want to look for. So what I do is whatever I want to look for, I just type angel and then I type fantasy art every single time. And now I get very like, look at this. Like I think that's pretty cool. And then like as soon as I go there, it promotes other ones. This one's also pretty cool. This guy is badass. This guy looks like a Gundam. Like this is some sort of angel. So I would like to collab with fantasy artists for every single post that I already create. The way that I'll do an example because let's see. Let's look at this image, for example. I don't know. It's kind of cool. It's purple. I tried to look for the Google, search for the image on Google. And then once I do that, I try to look for the artist here. So Robert Benoit, like I can already see that this might be the person that created it, or he's the one that has. And I try to get in contact with the artist and credit them on all the single posts. I try to promote them as much as I can. None of the images that I use are commissioned, but I would like at some point, obviously, to, I guess, show my gratitude in some sort of way. Maybe some artist, and maybe based on the story hooks that I come up with, they can create certain images, and then I can try to, collab with them or support them via Patreon or subscriptions. I tried to do that, but I still haven't gotten the whole gist of it. But yeah, I would like to collab with a bunch of artists if they have ideas and if the art style that they draw in, then if it's compelling enough, then I would love to use it. And then if you have seen the Instagram, which I'll show you, I animate all of their art. So it's a video and it's animated. And then I create this animation. So the image is just this blue guy, and then I create the background. I create all the effects that you see. So you guys can try to, I guess, so it's a little bit more compelling. And whichever one that you see, I always try to do that. So I promote the artist, whoever the artist is. In this case, I was not able to find an artist. In this case, I know it's this person. I tag them and try to collab with them that way. And that's it, guys. So pretty much just like we created the story hooks, I will create a post like this based on the images that you guys picked. I will create the text here with the story hook idea that we came up with. I'll credit you guys here where the artist is. I'll also put like a story hook creator was this and this person, in this case Charles and Empress Grin. I'll promote you guys both. Yeah, that's it. That's how I come up with homebrew content. They have content on other social media channels. So if you go to my Instagram, the main one, I do have a YouTube channel where this same exact process that we went through, which took us about 20 minutes per story hook, I create videos with other Dungeons and Dragons creators. We have had D&D content idea or D&D character idea, Assassin, which I believe he was live earlier today. So our very first episode, we created a story hook together. We have the Weekend Trip podcast, which are very talented guys. Actually, they have a lot of really good content currently on TikTok. So you can follow them at Brandon the DM and at Greg Plays Games. And then I did one with DM Screening with Logan from DM Screening. And then Logan was also pretty cool. I'm trying to get more content creators. So now if Storm Giant Games want to create a story hook together, we can also do that. Yeah, guys. So Assassin D&D character idea, we did our very first video together, and he actually helped me out come up with like this sort of YouTube idea. We've kind of been bouncing ideas back and forth. Assassin has a very entrepreneurial mind. But yeah, that's it. I don't know if anybody has any last questions. I want to thank Storm Giant Games for, I guess, providing the platform for me to talk to you guys and come up with these ideas together. I also have a TikTok account, which is +5 Charisma as well. I'm not as active in it. I'm trying to be more active, but I have a couple of videos, and I also go through this process on a 1-minute version for you guys to understand how to come up with ideas. And the reason I do it is because it's very hard for me when I started playing Dungeons and Dragons to come up with my own content and my own inspiration for my games. So I always found myself stuck. And then I found out this method of creating constant story hooks over time. And I think, well, if you see the Instagram, I think a lot of people can relate to being, I guess, having writer's block when they try to come up with some ideas. So I try to promote them to get inspired and just begin playing the game. Unless anybody has any last questions, then that's it, guys. Thank you, Storm Giant Games, for having me.
Thank you so much, Carlos. That was super awesome. And feel free to jump back in the Discord and share your link to your TikTok and your Instagram or YouTube. I didn't know you had a YouTube, so that's really cool. And we would love to do something together. So we'll chat about that. It was really awesome to see your process. I had no idea how much of that work on the art that you do yourself. That's super cool. The animation and stuff on there.
Yeah, guys. No, thank you for having me. And what was I going to say? Can you give me the link to the Discord channel? I don't know if you had provided that to me.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Before.
It's at crowdcontrolexpo.com. There's a button right in the middle that says join the Discord, but I'll send you the link too.
Awesome.
Cool.
I don't know if you need me for anything else. I hope that was useful for anybody.
Yeah, it was awesome. It was awesome. I'm glad it seemed like you had 2 people taking over most of the chat, and it was awesome that we had so much interaction in there. So that's really great. And thanks for being here, man. Have a good night.
Thank you, guys. I hope this is very successful for you guys. I'll try to promote you guys one more time.
Cool.
And then see if you guys get more viewers and more engagement.
Right on. Thanks, Carl.